Hello and welcome to the Philippines. What is the Philippines? What are the challenges when you come here? The Philippines is an amazing country with a lot of amazing people, 104 million people. So first of all, there's a lot of people in a relatively small space. Philippines is about the size of the state of Arizona or the state of Nevada. So drop 95 million people into those states up and above their present population, and you've got a lot of people. Communication is very important. The good news is that English is taught as the second language in the Philippines. Many Filipinos know three languages to some degree. Their local language, uh, the Filipino language, which is Tagalog and other Filipino languages mixed in, and English. I believe there are about 8 major languages spoken in the Philippines, and I think over 180 other languages spoken in different areas, tribes, remote areas. If you had a second or third language, or have a second or third language, and you haven't used those languages for quite some time, you can imagine that you're going to lose a lot of that ability to speak those languages, and that's what happens in the Philippines. A lot of people will, maybe 90-some% of the people learn English in school as their second language, but they don't use it, they don't see a need for it. So maybe 40 to 50% of the people actually speak it, and it's a different type of they use their vowels sound differently. So there is some challenge in communicating, and that's something you're going to have to get used to. Also, as you talk to people, and then uh, the Philippines is one of the most texting of people in the world, and they seems like they seldom call people. When you speak to a person and then you start seeing those texts, it's like the texts are, it's almost like it's a different person, because what I've been explained to, people have explained to me, is that when they're texting, they're thinking, they're translating in their head. When they're speaking, it's a little more natural oftentimes. It will help if you learn some of the local language, and you will have some frustrating times, I guarantee you. But remember why you came to the Philippines and adjust to it. This is primarily a cash society still. There are most of the stores and malls, and most resorts, I think, will take credit cards, but much of the rest of society is cash society. And if you're hauling around a lot of 1,000 or 500 peso bills, you're going to want to change those to smaller bills, because people will tell you that they don't have change. And if you still want that product or that cab ride, you're going to end up giving a very large tip. So it's a constant battle to go in and change, go in and buy some small item, and to get the smaller bills. You want to plan ahead when you're in the airport, when you're first coming into the Philippines, and you go to the money exchange place, and they hand you a bunch of 1,000 peso bills. Be sure to ask them for smaller bills, because you will need them, believe me. If you're traveling off to other islands, if you're in a big city, if one set of ATM machines are not working, you can usually find another set of ATM from a different bank. Many of the banks limit you to about 10,000 pesos per withdrawal. I think BPI will allow you up to 20,000. Somebody told me the China bank or one of them will allow up to 40,000, but I haven't confirmed that. So be aware that you need to plan ahead if you're going to more remote islands, and even not that small of islands. Camiguin Island. John down there, at the foreigner in the Philippines, says that there's only one ATM on the island that will accept foreign ATM cards. And last I had heard, that thing hadn't been working for a couple of weeks, so he had to make a 2 or 3 hour trip over to Cagayan de Oro just to get money. Now, we probably could have used a money transfer service to transfer money. That's another option, but plan ahead. The environment in the Philippines, we are close to the equator. It is warm, hot, and humid, many places in the Philippines most of the year. Some areas they have a wet season and then a drier season. And rain in most places comes for 20 to 40 minutes at a time, then it's over. Everybody goes about their life. It's not the monsoon season that you might get in some parts of the world that where you get rain most of the day, all day long, for long days at a time. If you have lived or experienced those types of climates before, Florida, Georgia, the southeast U.S. states, even up in Minnesota where I grew up, we had many summer days that were in the 80s, 90s, even into the hundreds, and 80, 90% humidity. Many people from the States tell me, in fact, the guy the other day commented, I thought it was, he just got here. I thought it was hot in the Philippines, and he finds it quite comfortable. So it just depends on what you're used to and how quickly you adapt. I've adapted in about 6 months' time, and there are oppressive days, but many days and especially evenings are quite livable here. A change in food and diet can be a major disruption and challenge for people, and we all grow up liking certain foods and smells and tastes, and the Filipinos love their rice, and it's served at almost every meal, including breakfast, and you might want to get used to that. I buy black rice. You can buy brown rice, red rice, violet rice, different types of rice. I buy black rice. It's more nutritious, and I usually make a meal out of it when I cook it. I use that or quinoa, and I will add. I will usually add cabbage or some meat, different vegetables to it, and make it a complete meal rather than just a bowl of rice. If you live in the bigger cities, you might find places like S&R membership shopping, similar to Costco, or Landers is another store very similar. A lot of imported goods, more expensive food there, but you can find many things that you won't find other places. If you're living in a smaller town or city or out in the country, your choices are going to be much more limited. You might be relegated to the local market, where you might get fresh meats on certain days. I know people on Camotes Islands, which is part of the Cebu province, who come into Cebu about twice a month to buy the things that they can't find on the island. I think he said they process one beef, I think, each Sunday, and if you're not there early, you're not going to get any beef. Brownouts are going to affect you sooner or later if you're in the Philippines very long at all. And I'm sure everybody has experienced them in their own country. You have storms, and your electricity goes out for a time. Anyway, they're probably a little more common here in the Philippines than what you're used to, depending upon where you're living. I've been living close to IT Park, more commercial industrial areas, and I've lived in 4 different condominiums with backup generators that would come on after the electric would go out. The first condo I had, it would only power the common lights out in the hallway, so you still had to use the stairs, and you didn't have any electric in your unit. Since then, all of my units have supplied power to my unit. One of them was not enough power to run my air conditioning, unfortunately, but it would power my lights and a fan. So consider that. You may end up wanting to get backup power, solar power, battery backup, or generator to handle those types of things. And here at SM, their generator didn't kick on for quite some time. I think it was down for 10 minutes or so before it finally kicked in. Where do you go when the electric goes out? You go to the beach, or you find a mall that has a generator, and you hang out there until the problem is solved, if you can. Scams and pickpockets. You are the rich foreigner in town in the eyes of many people, so there is a certain a group of people who are out to try to separate you from some of that money. And depending upon your lifestyle, some will find it much easier than others to do that. I've heard more than one story of where somebody has taken a girl, and probably in the case of a guy also, back to your room, and when you wake up in the morning, all your valuables are gone. So be aware. People are looking for you and looking for your cash. Customer service can be challenging and much different than what you're used to in many Western countries, and I'm not sure about the other Asian countries. But it comes down to training and motivation, and it's just different here. Starting at restaurants, many restaurants, when you go in, you might get a menu, but you might have to flag down. You might have to aggressively try to flag down a waiter, waitress in order to place your meal. Also, we're in the U.S., they're very quick to come and fill your glass with additional coffee or tea or a soft drink. Usually you ordered one, you get one with your meal. You don't get refills most places. And if you want your bill, there again, you have to get up and you have to flag down that waiter or waitress. And what I often do, I just go up to the cashier and then we just take care of it right there if I'm in a bit of a hurry. Things move slower here. There's no urgency to take care of issues, problems. For instance, I moved 3 different times, and getting my internet service moved was a major task. They told me, PLDT told me that they had 3 weeks allowed to move my internet service, just 4 blocks. And it took 4 weeks to do it. And every time I called, it was like, oh yeah, we have you scheduled, but they don't call, they don't set an appointment. And, so you're waiting around, and it gets quite frustrating. Understand that the pace of life is much slower here in many ways, and you're just going to have to adjust to it. Some people adjust to moves and new places much faster and better than others. What I suggest, if you have a hard time adjusting to an area that you're in, grab your stuff and check out another area. Every area is a little bit different. You've got the big city in Manila. If you want to be around all the big buildings and that type of infrastructure, you've got the provinces, very country type life. Anyway, that's about half of what I wanted to cover, and I will do a second video with some of the other items. Thank you for watching, and please like the video, share the video, subscribe. Safe travels to you all wherever you're at, and we'll see you next time.